Tell me about growing up Ayala.
Growing up Ayala,
The poor Ayalas.
the poor Ayala. Well, in prep, uh, I was in prep at the Ateneo, a rich boys' school, mostly rich boys. And in my section, I remember I had classmates with family names with the economic sound of Ayala. Ayala in the Philippines is a very rich name. I had a classmate who was a Sobel, a Soriano, Rojas, Elizalde. These are all rich names. We were all in the same class, and at the Ateneo de Manila, there always a party going on, and teacher would say, "Oh, who's going to bring the lechon?" Everybody would point, Ayala, Ayala, Ayala. Everybody point to Ayala. Who's gonna bring the ice cream? Oh, Ayala, Ayala, Ayala. Of course, I couldn't afford that stuff, so I never went to any of the parties. So that's what it felt like being expected to be a millionaire, but not being a millionaire. It's very.
But it opened a few doors.
Let me see. What doors did it open? I've never gotten a loan, so that's not it. Well, there was six of us and only two parents. So we had a lot of time. I had a lot of time to spend with just myself. So I'd spend a lot of time up in a tree somewhere or on a roof, playing with insects, running around with the dogs, experimenting with typewriters, sound making in things like musical instruments.
Taking radios apart.
Taking radios apart, yeah. Pretending to be a teacher, coming home from school, and whatever lesson was fresh in my mind, I'd scribble it on the blackboard and have my siblings write it down.
That is totally weird. Did the neighbor kids say, "Oh, stay away from Joe"?
No, we were pretty insulated, isolated. We had a wall around our lot, so the neighborhood kids who were all landless, unlike us, were more or less living beyond the perimeter of our, hollow block wall, which came tumbling down during a really strong storm in the late 60s. And so, here we are in this nice garden. The wall comes down and and it's squatter shanties all the way, and it's mud. And our neighbors, that's what they look like. I only knew the kids I knew, but I didn't know their houses looked like that.
Tell me about your dad.
My father, he was a very. My early memories is we play, but I watch more than play with. He'd put together models, forts out of matchsticks and popsicle sticks, and he'd assemble model tanks and stuff like that. He'd invent games, and I'd be watching him playing. He was not much of a talker.
Pensive?
Brooding more. He actually started talking to me mostly when I was in college already.
You mean like meaningful dialogue?
Quote unquote, yeah. He would always be doing something quietly, somewhere in a corner, assembling a Belen, the Christmas display thing.
Yeah, we had that in Guam.
Painting, reading, taught me to play chess, and then. Well, he would say, "Okay, you can beat me. You get 20 pesos," which in the 60s was a huge amount. Of course, I never beat him. He'd be reading his novels, and I'd be, across him. I want to beat this guy. Get 20 bucks. And I never beat him.
Would you describe him as a Renaissance man?
I had at that time I didn't know what that word meant. I'm not sure if I know what it means now.
Leonardo, for instance.
More like a samurai version of Leonardo, because he got into the martial arts pretty heavily, and he became he was doing iron palm kung fu. He was doing tai chi. He was doing work with the staff, and he got really very strong. And that side by side with painting, I think those two things, painting and martial arts, those were his focuses. He meditated a lot, and I remember one time I saw him on the beach sitting on a tree stump meditating, and he was moving in a spiral, and above him were 3 or 4 birds they were riding on something, above him. They were like riding on his, I don't know what it was. He was just moving around that way, and the birds are going the same way around him. So, you know. My mom was, well, she'd tell me stories almost every day, put me to sleep telling me stories. And very early on, I realized she was actually talking about her relationship with my father. But she turned it into a fairy tale, like Goldilocks and the seven bears, something like that. The seven dwarves, like the six of us and her would be the dwarves, and my father would be Goldilocks because he kept locking the gold away. It was her way of complaining without complaining, you know.
Yeah, transference or something.
But it was all tongue in cheek. But I only realized it after a while, and I realized her fairy tales are not like the fairy tales I read in school or from the library. Very different. Social realism fairy tales. And she was one of the only person I'd seen cut her own hair in the 60s. What might be called now punk or something. Like she was
Spiked.
Yeah, spikes.
You and your sister were not living among normal human beings.
Normal for us.